Welcome to Love Bites. Love Bites. Love Bites. Love Bites. By Dr. Tara, your destination for sexual wellness and mindful relationship advice. Hope you're having an orgasmic day.
Massages can be sexually arousing. Upgrade your foreplay with an amazing massage candle by Mod. It's body safe and skin softening. Once melted and extinguished, it can be poured on the skin and let the fun begin. Check out the link in this episode's description and have an orgasmic time. A survey of nearly 9,000 single US adults showed that 1 in 5 had previously been in a consensually non-monogamous relationship. So, ethical non-monogamy, you've heard about it, right? But what is it really? Today, we're talking to a pro. Hello, my loves. It's Dr. Tara, your favorite sex and relationship expert here at Love Bites, the podcast for sexual wellness and exploration. Today with me is the beautiful Zachary Zane. He's a Brooklyn-based columnist, sex expert, an activist whose work focuses on sexuality, lifestyle, culture, and the LGBTQ community. He currently has a sex advice column at Men's Health titled, love it, Sexplained It, and a relationship column at Queer Majority titled Zach and the City. Woo! His work has been published everywhere. The New York Times, Rolling Stone, the Washington Post, GQ, Playboy, and the list goes on and on. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of Boyslut zine, which publishes nonfiction sex stories from kinksters all around the globe. He is also co-author of this book that it just came out last week called Men's Health, Best Sex Ever. And you guys should totally get one. And he's also writing his memoir manifesto, Boyslut, that will be coming out in spring 2023. Hey, Zach.
Hello. How are you doing?
What a bio. So sexy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about your journey. How did you become the Zachary Zane Men's Health advice columnist, person that writes articles about sex, the sex expert?
So I went to school and I studied psychology and neuroscience, and I thought I was going to get a PhD in clinical psychology. I was working at Harvard Medical Center as a smoking cessation researcher and counselor, so figuring out the best way to get people to quit smoking cigarettes. And as I was applying for like my PhD program, I was like, I hate academia. These people are like nasty. They are cutthroat. They will steal your work. It's going to take 6 years of a PhD, 3 years of postdoc. I'm not going to start my career till I'm in my late 30s. So I just kind of started writing a little bit while I was at work. I had some free time. I wrote a piece that the first piece I ever wrote was for Exo Jane's Vertical, It Happened to Me. And I wrote a piece about essentially being a bisexual man, and like the way they titled it was I came out as bisexual and now can't date anyone gay or straight. But what it was about was this idea that when I finally came out as bi, and that journey was so difficult, and I can share more on that later, but I thought like the world would be my oyster. I thought I'd be able to date men and women and like everything would be easy. And then women didn't want to date me because they were afraid I was secretly gay and using it as a stepping stone, and they were insecure and thought I was going to leave them, or homophobia, whatever it is. And then gay men were just very condescending. They're like, oh, honey, I was bi too. You'll get there. You'll be fully gay soon. I'm like, no, that's wildly rude. Please don't validate my identity like that. And so all of a sudden, like, no one would date me. And I was like, what gives? And then I ended up falling in love with this bi woman. And I spoke of my experience of just like dating other bi people and how that like kind of changed my life, and like making sure to like kind of find myself in this, how to find other bi people, create this bi community, date and love other bi people. And that was very important and huge for me at the time. And it still is now. But a lot, the thing, there was very, very little male bisexuality visibility. Mm-hmm. So because of that article, it just went viral. I got work for other places, and I just started writing a lot about bisexuality.
Mhm.
From there, I kind of expanded to like queer male sex culture, to ethical non-monogamy, and then just kept writing and writing for different places, kept reading, kept researching, and kind of solidifying myself as like an expert and writer in this field. But it started very niche with male bisexuality, then queer male culture, then sex, and then now kind of expanded to where I am at, the sex advice columnist at Men's Health.
Hmm. So the New York Times article, I love the title. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are bi enough.
Yeah.
Um, is this stereotype of like, oh, is it just a stepping stone into the gay world? Is it still going on?
It's tough.
Like you
I mean,
first say you're bi, but in fact you're actually gay. Like, is this still going on?
oh, that still happens everywhere. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I want to make it clear, like, it's not whatever, I've spoken to some bi people and bi activists who are like, oh, gay men really shouldn't do that. It invalidates our identity. And I'm like, he's trying to figure it out too. You know what I mean? Like,
We're all trying to fucking figure
yeah,
it out.
it's clearly not a malicious thing. And
Mhm.
did I wish gay men didn't use it as a stepping stone? Yes, that would be helpful for the bi community. Is it their fault that they do? No, they're figuring it out too. And I think the emphasis and focus should just be on like, okay, just because you did as a gay man doesn't mean that bisexuality isn't real. And really taking the focus on like, stop being so like narcissistic and
Mhm.
solipsistic, and being like, just because it's your experience or just because you're two guys who did it doesn't mean every single guy in the world has that same sexuality. Like, that's just so wildly narrow-minded and so like, I don't want to say stupid, but just like, can you not see how like the world is diverse and people have different sexual experiences? You
Yeah.
really believe that your situation must mirror every single other person in the world? Like, wow, like you got some balls and some arrogance to truly think that.
Mhm.
So that's what I try to focus on this, just being like, okay, so plenty of people still use it as a stepping stone and plenty of people don't. Like, the world is diverse, and like allowing for that and recognizing that is super important.
When did you realize that you're bisexual?
I always struggle answering this question. Like, I embraced being bisexual after college,
Okay.
like, and that's when I came out to myself, and subsequently came out to my family and friends and everything like that. But when did I know? I mean, yeah, I had urges from when I was like 5 for being attracted to men and women. You know what I mean? But it's like I didn't know what it was. I rationalized it. I was in denial about it. There was a time where I thought I was like bi-sexual and hetero-romantic.
Mhm.
So essentially, what that means is I could date and I'm sorry, no, I could fuck and sleep with anyone of all genders.
Mhm.
Attracted, to men, women, non-binary people sexually, but in terms of like romantically and who I want to date and love, I was hetero, meaning I could only date and love women, and I kind of took on that identity for a little bit. And that isn't a valid identity for many men, but it just wasn't mine. It was almost like, for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm still like mostly straight, only dating women. I just like fucking dudes. Like that's fine. But then I had a revelation that I'm like, no, I can actually love men as well and date men and non-binary people too. It's not just women who have the potential to love. Um, but it was a journey. I hooked up with a lot of men in college and like rationalized it, convinced myself, oh, I was just drunk, I was horny. Uh, and like, I think when I first kissed a guy, I assumed, or like hooked up with a guy, I assumed I was going to have this like light bulb moment where it's like, okay, I kiss a guy and immediately I know I'm gay. I love him. Every relationship I've had with a woman, that was fake. That wasn't real. That wasn't what love was. And that wasn't good sex. This was it. Or I'd kind of kiss his lips and hook up with him and be like, okay, I'm pretty straight. I'm not enjoying this. Like, this is not for me. And then when I didn't have this polarizing response, when it wasn't like, I was like, I had to get super drunk in order to do it because I was so nervous. In the middle of him blowing me, I left to go vomit twice because I
Oh
was so
gosh.
drunk. And I came back. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. Keep going, keep going." But then, like the next day, I was like, I guess that was like okay, but also I was super drunk. Like I didn't. It was like a shitty one night stand because I was hammered, but like I wasn't repulsed by it. But I was like, I didn't love it. This doesn't make sense. I don't think I'm gay because like, or every gay guy I spoke to when they started hooking up with guys were like, oh no, I knew. Like whether like this was
Mhm.
something I clearly wanted. So I'm like, it's not me. And at the time in college, I first hooked up with a guy in 2009. My freshman year of college, like bisexual visibility was not a thing. It was just not an option. It was you were gay or straight. There wasn't the option of bi. Like you just didn't think it was real. So my experiences didn't really pertain to a straight man, didn't pertain to a gay man. And that's why that's why I'm so passionate about what I do now. Because if I just knew bisexuality was an option, was a choice, if there was actual bisexual visibility, I would have known so much sooner. But like there was nothing in 2009. Like there was very, very little. There might be a few off articles being like 10 things to never say to a bisexual person. And like, that's great, but that didn't help me. Like there was no articles for bi men about being bisexual. Every single article about bisexuality was teaching straight people, teaching gay people about bisexuality. It was never like helping a bi person understand who he is or who they are. But so that's kind of how I got there. And then through therapy at a therapist when I was taught, sorry, I'm trying to like really bulldoze through this as quickly as possible. It's a long story. But a therapist, when I was talking to him about, I was confused about my sexuality after college, and he interrupts me on my second session. And he's like, hey, you asked me to be blunt with you. That was one of the things you really looked for in a therapist. So I'm going to be blunt. When we say the word confused, when you're talking about sexuality, it actually has a specific meaning. And what you are describing is not confused about your sexuality. You seem very clearly bisexual. Is there something I'm missing? Like being like, and I told him, I'm like, that shit doesn't exist in men. And he responded, Zach, you're too smart to think that. And almost hearing it from a medical professional as this is a valid and real identity. This is not only a real identity, this is clearly who you are, was like, oh shit. And like from there, almost like once I got permission, was allowed to be bi in a sense, it only took a few months to really kind of delve into my identity more so and really start embracing it.
So you've dated men and women?
Yes.
And have
men,
had sex
women,
with men,
non-binary people,
everyone.
trans people,
Okay.
everyone.
So now that you said that, non-binary people and trans people also, I want to talk about your Rolling Stone article. What's the real difference between bi and pansexual? Can you talk about that?
It's, I have different, everything is like, I have different thoughts on this than other people, obviously. So this doesn't mirror everyone's. I think there's confusion. Yeah. I think there's confusion even within the bisexual community and in the pansexual community about what these words mean. So the word pansexual was honestly birthed out of confusion of the word bisexual. Like the thing is, people assume that bi meant men and women. So they said, oh, it's not inclusive of non-binary people. And then I have certain people who are like, oh, it's not inclusive of trans people. And when I say that, I'm like, well, trans men are men and trans women are women. So if you're saying it's not inclusive of trans people, you're actually the one who's isolating them and not doing this, not me. Yeah. If anything, you can make the argument that it's not inclusive of non-binary people. But the real truth is we didn't have the understanding of gender when the word bisexual came out that we do now. We really only saw it, at least in the US and, in the West, like as having these two genders, these two sexes. And so that's why we had the word bisexual. But it's like most bisexual people are attracted to all genders. It's not like they're only attracted to men and women, not binary people, but they claim that label because that's the label that they know. So the way I differentiate it now, and there's kind of two different ways to do it, but the bisexual essentially means you're attracted to multiple genders, and that could be all genders. And pansexual means you're attracted to all genders. So you can be bisexual and pansexual, and there's some people who identify as both. But I honestly think what bothers me is there's kind of so much infighting among people who literally have the same exact attractions.
Yeah.
And they're being like, oh, you're transphobic. And you're like, I'm not transphobic. Like that's an insane thing. Like I'm actually, like, as a bi man, I'm the one who openly dates trans women. I'm not a shitty straight dude who only fucks you and then doesn't introduce you to your family or friends. I actually validate you for your identity and who you are. And you really never hear a trans person or non-binary person saying bisexuality is transphobic or non-binary phobic. It's always like well-meaning cisgender people who are offended on behalf of the community that aren't offended themselves. So it's like, I'm happy for you to identify however you want, but you, like, at the end of the day, I feel like there is some kind of needless there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of like infighting between the two groups when we're like 100% on the same team and there are much larger issues going on. So it's definitely confusing. I've also heard recently, and this honestly makes more sense in terms of a distinction, where bisexuality means you're attracted essentially to all genders, like you're attracted to masculinity, femininity, and almost pansexual means you're attracted to people regardless of gender. So it's like you don't necessarily, versus I'm attracted, like, and that kind of defines me. I'm attracted to gender. I just like all genders. Like, versus it's not like, oh, I like you regardless of your gender. It's like, oh, I like the fact you're highly masculine. I like the fact you're highly feminine. I like the fact that you blend the two together. I actually love all of it, not I don't see you for it.
Right.
So it's a little bit confusing. I think there was a push for pansexuality to kind of become more mainstream like 10 years ago. Like 10 to like the last like 2 years ago. And don't like, these are, my speculation hypotheses. It's not like fact-based here, but I'm seeing now more of a push for people almost going back to being bisexual, being like, we have a word, like we don't need to change it. We don't need to move on so much here. So I think there's been a push more recently where we're seeing more people use bi again, as opposed to using pan, but all of them are valid.
In the letters, it is LGBTQ.
But like every identity is valid. You can call yourself bisexual, you can call yourself pansexual, whatever you want is fine. My focus on this is like letting people be the identity that they want. And especially when pan people come for bisexual people, I'm like, this is absolutely insane, you guys. Like, why are you doing this? So I think it's like, you're allowed to be pan, you're allowed to be bi, you're allowed to be both, but just have the freedom to allow everyone else to do the same here.
Yeah. And there's lots of people for, those of you that are listening, my Love Bites fam, a recent survey shows 5.6% of Americans identify as LGBTQ. And then within that 5.6%, which is, if we're thinking 330 million people, maybe about 18 million people, within that 54.6%, so about half, identify as bisexual. Is that interesting?
There are more bi people than there are like gay and lesbians.
That's really interesting. But yet, like, you don't really hear about them like speaking up about bisexuality.
And there's so much. It's often a very overlooked letter in the LGBTQ community. Although, like, we're starting to see more visibility. We're starting to have more stuff. We're starting to have more of our movement. And
are there famous bi characters in movies and TV shows?
We're starting to see more of it. There was literally a Hulu show called The Bisexual, and like it was about her experience being a bi woman. There was I think it's My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. One of the guy comes out as, that's the one where they sing, right? I think so. It's the singing show. Like one of the guys came out as bi and had this great song dispelling stereotypes. In the new Gossip Girl, there's like incredible male bisexual visibility, which I am loving and here for. So we're starting to see more and more of it. It's still less than other forms of visibility within the LGBTQ community, but we're starting to see more, and that's all we can ask for, as long as we keep going up in the right direction. I think we definitely are, as a community and within activism, like going the right way. And that's important, of course.
I want to pivot into talking about ethical non-monogamy, but first I remember seeing this article, but I can't really pull it up right now. I think it was Vogue that was like just 2 weeks ago, and the headline was, "Is monogamy dead?"
That's such a clickbait headline.
Yeah. How do you feel about monogamy? Let's start there.
How do I feel? Whatever works for you. I'm not one to judge anyone and their things. Right. I think the issue with monogamy, and there's been this distinction between what they call like radical monogamy and reflexive monogamy. And if you're monogamous just because you think that's the only valid form of relationship, you think that this is the only way you can be happy, and being polyamorous is not real. That's not real love. Being in an open relationship is not real love, unless if you're sleeping with the same person, you don't love each other. No, that's bad. If you're just doing this because, and that's what they call reflexive monogamy. You're just doing it reflexively, not because you want to, but because you think it's the only option, and you're actually miserable and unhappy in this relationship, but you think it's the only thing. And then there's radical monogamy, which is like, okay, in a world in which monogamy wasn't put on this pedestal as the highest form of relationship standard, would you still want to do this? in a world where 50% of people were poly and 50% of people are monogamous, and there was no hierarchy, there was no judgment or shame, no sex negativity, no poly negativity, would you still choose to be monogamous? And if so, amazing. That relationship is right for you. But I think a lot of people are monogamous just because they think that's what you should do, and then they're just miserable. I think there's so many unhappy marriages, so many unhappy monogamous people, and that's not good for anyone. You know what I mean? So
just being unhappy is not good.
Yeah. So like,
not
I
worth
have
it.
no ill will towards people who are monogamous, but I do hope that they become introspective about what it is that they want. Because I think monogamy can sometimes allow for a level of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not being introspective, like, okay, why do I get jealous with when my partner talks to someone because I have this abandonment issues or fear of this? You're like, well, we're monogamous. He's not allowed to talk to anyone. That's fine. So you're almost kind of putting these temporary band-aids, not doing any of the work to see what the issue is, and just hoping that the actual relationship structure is enough for you to have a healthy relation. It's like you're relying on the relationship structure as opposed to the person. Where it's like monogamy allows for this level of comfort and stability and safety. But you're actually not putting in the work with your partner. You're just kind of letting the relationship dynamic take hold. So that's the one thing that I'm just going to say critical of, but it's like monogamy in itself is fine, amazing, be happy, do whatever you love.
Have you heard of monogamish?
Yeah, that Dan Savage coined that term. And the monogamish is just the idea that essentially you're monogamous. However, with the consent of your partner, you're allowed to hook up with someone once in a while. Okay, you go on a work trip. Yeah, you go on a work trip for a month, and like, okay, you end up hooking up with a girl, and it's like, you wear a condom, do it safely. And they might have a don't ask, don't tell policy, meaning I don't want to hear about it. Or they might like be like, oh, I actually hooked up with this woman. Like, oh, it's fun. And that's it. But it's not like they are actively going out on dates. They're picking up people together in the forms of like a threesome. It's just more like opportunistic when one of them is away, and happens very seldom. So that's kind of what monogamish is.
So cute. Monogamish.
It's a great term.
Basically a hall pass here and there.
Yeah, a whole pass, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. When people ask me, and I'm not shy to explain, I always say we're in a dynamic boundaries relationship. They're like, what the fuck is that? And I said it is self-explanatory. Our boundaries are dynamic. Like sometimes open, sometimes closed. I'd say monogamish is something I can relate to very well, and something that my partner and I have like that's what we agreed upon. But I also like the word dynamic boundaries, because I truly feel like that's how I operate, how my partner operates, and how a lot of my friends operate.
I really like it. It allows just for fluidity within the relationship. And I think that's just so important to be like, okay, at times we hook up with other people, at times we don't. We talk about it, things change, things evolve. And that, like, saying dynamic boundaries allows for that in a way that I think is very helpful versus like, oh, we're monogamous, we can never do this forever. Right. Every relationship's going to be the same. And it's like, okay, well, hold on. Let's allow for some evolution here.
Yeah. Well, talking about that. So I have friends that are super hardcore, neo evolutionary theorists. And they truly believe in monogamy allows for flourishing of the offsprings, because two people are there, and they're committed to, growing their offsprings, and therefore providing for the fittest offspring. And monogamy has a big role in allowing our humankind to grow the way it has been growing for the last, maybe monogamy 100 years. Because before that was non-monogamy, which is really interesting. And I never really thought about how, pleasure plays into evolutionary. Because I just think pleasure is why we're here. That's my view of being a human, is I would not want to be here unless I am capable. I'm in a position that I can experience pleasure.
A true hedonist. I love it.
I am. I indulge. My partner tells me that all the time. You're a true hedonist. Yes, I truly believe in pleasure, and life is not worth living for me if there's no pleasure. So when I'm talking to a friend who's a scientist who's super into like evolutionary theory, and they're like, oh, by monogamy is the only way to guarantee healthy, successful offsprings. Like, what do you think about that?
It was when we were hunter-gatherers. The thing about evolutionary psychologists and evolutionary theorists is like, we have come so far away from where we were with modern and tech, like with modern advances in tech. And so when a lot of them are comparing our relationships structures to hippos or whatever the fuck, and I'm like, does a hippo have to reply to 100 emails a day? Is a hippo worrying about like where he's going to get rent? Does a hippo go on Tinder? It's like we are so far removed, like from because of what's happened in tech and what's happened in society, that it's not a very ground science to me, just because we're so different from it. But yeah, I think when we were hunter and gatherers, that made complete sense. You didn't want the kid to die. And so you having this close-knit bond with this person where the man can go out and grab food, get shelter, the woman goes home or is home breastfeeding and protecting them, guarantees them to get to a point where they can have offspring, because that's what the goal of evolutionary psychology is. It's always like how to pass on your seed, the selfish gene, whatever you want to call it. That even changed in an agricultural setting. The moment we invented agriculture, the moment we were able to actually get water and irrigate water, that already at that point is the biggest change in evolutionary psychology, and that already differentiates us from every other species ever of everything. That was a gajillion years ago, and here we are now. So like whenever I hear these evolutionary psychologists, I'm like, we're just so far removed from what we are that like it's a lot of it I think is bullshit personally.
Interesting thought. So let's go into ethical non-monogamy. So I guess the word non-monogamy itself is pretty self-explanatory, but what is ethical non-monogamy?
I think the idea is that no one's cheating. That's why they throw the word unethical, because especially when you study animals or whatever, they talk about non-monogamous relationships, or within that's animals having extracoital affairs, whatever you want, animals cheating. Oh yeah, whatever they call it. So this was just a differentiation to make it be like cheating is non-monogamy, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about letting your partners know what you're doing, coming to agreement together, all parties consenting, and having that communication. So that's what ethical non-monogamy is.
So an open relationship is an ethical non-monogamous relationship.
Correct.
Are you in an open relationship?
I'm polyamorous.
Oh, okay. So you're in a small group relationship.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's I have a boyfriend, and then I did have a girlfriend, but we broke up a couple months ago. But I have a boyfriend at this point, and then more casual partners who, people I see, whatever it is, once a month, and I have an amazing time with them. We were very coupley when we're together. We text each other, we phone call periodically, but I just don't see them as much, just because the one thing they say about polyamory is love is infinite, but time is not. I would love to have like 9 boyfriends and 8 girlfriends right now. There's so many people in this world who are incredible. I would love to have a relationship with them, but you can't. You just don't have enough time. So a lot of it's the amount of resources and time you're willing to dedicate to each partner. And one of the things when I had a boyfriend and a girlfriend was it was just too much. I'd see him 2-3 nights a week, see her 2-3 nights a week. And then I have like 1 night a week for myself. What about seeing friends, going to work? I just didn't have time to do anything. But right now, so I have one boyfriend, just multiple casual partners. And my boyfriend has another boyfriend as well.
Okay. But you and the other boyfriend don't have a relationship.
We're friends. We're close friends. I actually really like him. And we still have sex periodically too. Okay. But he's not a partner. He's just a friend.
Okay. So you're poly and open.
So the way people have, again, every word has multiple different definitions to it. But the way I conceptualize it is you have ethical non-monogamy at the top. And that's anything that's not monogamous.
Umbrella term.
It's the umbrella term. Exactly. That's the one to incorporate anything that's monogamish, open relationships, swinging, polyamory. What are some other ones? Don't ask, don't tell. Thruples, triads, polyfidelity. Like there's everything is under that ethical non-monogamous umbrella. Open relationship, just means that you're not trying to have multiple boyfriends or partners or girlfriends, whatever it is. You have one person and then you just have sex with other people. You're allowed to have sexual relationships with other people. You're not allowed to have other romantic relationships. Polyamory allows for both romantic and sexual relationships with multiple other people.
So before you came to the current situation where I am bisexual and I'm in a poly relationship and here's where I belong, here's where I feel comfortable, here's what it feels right for me. The journey to get here, what were some pivotal moments in which you're like, oh, that's definitely not for me, that's definitely for me? I'm asking this because I think listeners for example, people that are in their 20s, early 20s that are listening that are like, oh, I feel like that's kind of something I want to do. I want to give them some pointers of well, if you do feel this way in this situation, it's probably a good sign.
Yeah, my experience, read my book, Boyslut, when it comes out.
Yes, 2023.
Really I know it's unfortunately these things take forever to come out, but that talks about a lot of the pivotal moments I had. I think right now, if you're thinking about it, is this right for me? I think the main question is to yourself is asking hey, do I separate love and sex? Well, is that something where you recognize that you can love someone and then you having sex with other people doesn't take away from the love that you have for that person? If you can be yeah, no, I know I love that person and me having sex with someone else doesn't impact that relationship, that's a good answer to know that potentially this is right for you. And then you could also, but that would be for an open relationship style. If you're even thinking about polyamory, it's, hey, could I love another person and that not take away the love I have for the one person? For that other partner, right? So it's okay, I know that loving multiple people doesn't take away from my relationship, doesn't mean I don't love them any less, doesn't mean I'm not going to be for them any less, whatever it is. And I think if you believe that in yourself, that's the biggest step. You're no, I know that. Okay, well, if you know that, then potentially you can do this, right? And I think, I think that would be the main question to ask yourself.
Can you talk about compersion?
Yeah. So compersion is often thought of as the opposite of jealousy. I actually don't like that definition, but I think it's very popular. So compersion is when your partner's with someone else and you're happy for them. That's all it is. It's taking joy in your partner's joy, specifically for having a sexual or romantic relationship with anyone else. But, you can be compersion in platonic friendships too. You're happy that your friend's succeeding. You love seeing them succeed. But compersion within, polyamory is specifically, you're happy that they're on a date with someone else because they're happy, they're having sex, instead of being jealous or worried or insecure.
And is it a personality trait?
For some people, but compersion can be learned. It's a muscle that you can flex, and over time, being, practicing gratitude, being appreciative, having more experiences where you feel secure in your relationship. When you're secure in a relationship, that allows for compersion. If you think your partner might leave you for someone else because they don't tell you how much they love you, whatever the reason is, you're not going to be able to have compersion. You can only have compersion once you have a secure relationship. So I think that's something to know and work on. Just because it's not coming naturally might just mean, okay, are there ways that we can deepen our relationship where I can feel more secure, which then allows me to actually be able to feel compersion from my partner.
Okay, so it is somewhat, it's a skill.
It's a skill, and it gets easier with time. And it's a lot of, it's like the cognitive behavioral therapy of kind of reframing thought processes instead of being oh, I'm sad, I'm alone, and my partner's going out having sex, being oh, I'm grateful I have this time to focus on myself, and I'm happy my partner is able to get something that I'm not able to give them. Whatever it is. So I think a lot of it is reframing, which is just so important.
Yeah. The ability to
Yeah.
reframe most situations, I think, is an important skill.
Yeah, it's something that I've been working on more. It's something I did, I
Me
think,
too.
inadvertently for a while, and
Mhm.
now I was like, okay, well, hold on, let's think about it like this. But now I actually like think, okay, no, we're purposely. Why am I looking at through this lens? Let's reframe
Mhm.
this, and I think that's actually been helping my mental health a lot. Of
Mhm.
okay, this experience wasn't actually bad. But like
Mhm.
my gut response might have been anger or sadness or frustration, but okay, what I learned from this experience here was a takeaway from that. Well, like, if you're able to do that, I think you'd be a lot more fulfilled and find more meaning in your life.
Oh, well said. It's been a journey for me too. I've been, actively reframing. And when I say actively reframing, I journal and I find it much easier to just reframe on paper, like write
Yeah.
out, here's how I'm feeling. Here's how I can look at it in a different way rather than thinking it in my head, because I feel like I was already reframing psychologically for a long time, but then I forget. Right. But if I
Yeah.
do like write it down, it's kind of like, okay, here's evidence that I have reframed about this. And then I read out loud like the new perspective that I came to a conclusion with, then internalize like, okay, here's my new like reframed thought. Here's how I feel about this now.
It's a lot, especially when you write things out. We often have these like cyclical patterns of thoughts in our head where we kind of loop a
Mhm.
little bit, and it could be like, okay, this is what happened, and you kind of repeat the same things. When you write it out, it's like, okay, I just wrote that. Let me move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier to kind of process your thoughts when you journal or write things down.
Yeah. I want to ask you about, I think you often talk about kink and like the kinky lifestyle and, the community. Can you first, educate everyone, my Love Bites fam, what's kink? And I know it's a good like umbrella term for a lot of things.
I think a kink, honestly, is just anything that's not considered "quote unquote" standard or normal sex, which is like
Mhm.
what is standard sex? What is normal
Right.
sex? You know
Well,
what
I
I
mean,
mean?
I teach a whole unit, and it's a part of my textbook is non-traditional sexual behaviors.
Yeah.
But basically, so we have to first discuss what is traditional sexual behavior and what is
Mhm.
non-traditional sexual behavior and who decides what is non-traditional, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that S&M is still in the DSM 5th edition. It's still a mental disorder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, that's interesting because
No. It's not. No. It's only no. They changed the language though.
did they change recently?
It changed it so it's no longer just classified as a mental disorder. It's classified as a disorder if it's causing a problem in your life.
If it's causing a problem.
So
Okay, if
it's
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 causing a
no longer
problem.
just like if you have healthy BDSM relationships and it's good. If your kink is non-consensual, okay, obviously that's bad. That's causing something that if you're unable to focus at work because you're only thinking about crazy whatever it is or hurting yourself, like if it's causing a negative problem in your life, then it's
Uh-huh.
considered a disorder. But if it's actually fine and enhancing your life or just a neutral thing in your life, it's no longer classified as a disorder.
I appreciate that they changed the language
Yeah.
because also like when I started learning all about this, like in the PhD program, like the fact that, being gay or lesbian used to be a mental disorder is so scary.
It's nuts. It's scary. It's
And,
yeah.
and it's textbook, like people learn from that before,
It,
they were during those
yeah.
times.
And it's so weird. Just thinking about kinks. It's just like, people will say like anal sex, and straight couples say anal sex is kinky or whatever. And it's like, if you're a gay man, you're like, that's not kinky. That's how we have sex.
That's the traditional sexual behavior.
That's actually a traditional sexual
Yeah.
behavior is us having anal sex because, most men don't fucking have vaginas here.
Right.
So like, that is how, most gay men have sex. So it would not be considered kinky because it's literally traditional. And that's how you
Mhm.
do it among gay men, like
So for you, what's kinky?
specifically for me or like
Yeah.
theoretically.
For you.
I mean, I like most things, even
Ooh.
if it's not something that I enjoy. I like seeing how turned on my partner gets by it.
Mm.
So like for example, I'm very indifferent towards like water sports. It doesn't do anything for me to pee on someone. It also doesn't not do anything. I don't find it disgusting. It's just like not an arousal thing. But I've had this like sex slave for like 5 years, pretty much.
You had a sex slave for 5 years?
Or probably almost 5 years. I've been in New York for 5 years. I met him 2 apartments ago.
2 apartments ago.
I know,
New Yorkers moving around.
I know, that's how I measure my life here. So at least 4 years. And essentially, I like, in exchange for me doing whatever the fuck I want with him, for him cleaning my apartment, for us having rough, kinky sex, I just like, as long as I just pee in his mouth afterwards, he's the happiest man alive.
Wow.
And so for me, I'm like, this is great. I get to have the sex I want. My apartment gets clean. He's ecstatic. He's thrilled. Does it do anything for me sexually? No. But hey, he enjoys it. I don't get a UTI. Everyone wins. You know what I mean? So like, it's not a bad thing here. And so like, I'm very like, except for a few, you know, hard boundaries at this point, most things I'm into.
What's something that a huge turn on?
For me, I love like daddy girl play, daddy boy play, where like I'm like the daddy and this, and I'm calling them my baby. I find that shit hot. Or like fake incest shit, I find hot too.
Yeah.
And like that type of role play, I think is fun. I love like spanking and choking. I think that's super hot too. And I just use a shit ton of sex toys. I mean, I rep so many sex toys brand. I have like, I've probably gotten gifted, I'm not joking, over 1,000 sex toys in my life from brands that I do reviews of. So it's like, I have them like overflowing from beds. Everyone's birthday gift, everyone's Christmas gift is sex toys that I got. And I'm like, take them. I'm overflowing.
But like for real though, isn't that difficult? Because when they send you stuff, I feel like 50% is not good.
Oh, just because they send it to me doesn't mean I have to write it up.
Yeah.
No. They send it to me.
If I not good.
If I think it's good, I mean, usually I respond being like, hey, I really didn't enjoy this product. Here's the feedback I would do to make it better. I'm not going to be writing this up because it would be a negative review. And they say, okay. And they're thankful, because otherwise, if they would insist and I wrote it up, A, I never promised coverage, but B, then you get a bad review. But no, a lot of it's shit, but there are definitely some good brands that I recommend. Like Love Honey has just a ton of, I mean, obviously they're the sex toy retailer, but even their Love Honey Basics line and their Love Honey specific line is very cheap for very good quality. Like you can get a sex toy for $30 and it lasts you for the next 5 years, feels amazing, vibrates, high quality. Versus a lot of the other sex toys you get for $30 like suck.
Yeah, but some are like so crazy now. There's like $200-$300. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big investment for normal people.
It's a big investment for everyone, but the idea is, okay, you buy one toy for $300, you fucking love it. It makes your sex so much better, and you have sex 10,000 times with it. It's 2 cents a time. It's worth it. It's not worth it if you use it twice, throw it away, use it as a novelty thing. But if you actually start to incorporate it, like, you know, buying a magic wand, which is, you know, every woman's kind of favorite, not every woman's, but a lot of women's favorite thing, between that and one of the clit suckers, you're like, for like external stimulation like that, women really like it. And wands are expensive, but like you masturbate with that every time. Like it's worth it that way. But if you think you're going to only use it once in a blue moon, then then you want something from Love Honey that's $30.
I want like a quiet vibrator. I want like a Dyson. I want Dyson to make a vibrator.
Yeah, no, and there's so much more stuff coming out right now. And I think we're going to see an explosion. We've already seen an explosion, but we're going to see an explosion of sex tech toys in the next like 5 years. That's going to be insane.
The internet is filled with sex toys. Like if you Google sex toys, there's like 5,000 stores.
Literally, if you Google best sex toys for men, I think probably the first 3 articles are ones that I've written. I think I have one in GQ, one in Men's Health, and then there's one that I'm like quoted in as an expert. I think it's like New Yorker or something, or New York Mag or whatever it is. It's literally, I think it's all shit that I recommend for what it's worth. So that's pretty good.
Do you talk about like butt plugs?
I do. I do quite often. If you type in best butt plugs, I bet you I come up. Let's see. Hold on. Let me do a new Google search.
Look it up right now.
Best butt plugs. Let's see who comes up. outside of the ads, obviously. So it's like Adam and Eve, Cosmo. Oh, there I am.
Does it stimulate?
Yes. Wait, was this me? Wait, is this the GQ one me? Okay, now I'm interested in seeing which was the shit that I wrote on this page. Definitely wrote the men's health one. Did I write this GQ one? Oh no, Gigi did, and Kate Sloan, two writers I work with. I love that. Yeah, no, butt plugs are amazing. You can get ones that vibrate, of course, ones that focus more on the prostate. So it's actually hitting that spot specifically, although most butt plugs do that independently anyway. And I have this toy from B-Vibe, which is a vibrating butt plug and that connects to the cock ring. And that's just like, you almost get the vibrations from the butt plug going into the cock ring, and you stay harder with the cock ring, and it feels amazing. So that's a go-to that I use. Yeah.
So there's ones that don't vibrate and ones that vibrate. Do you think like the ones that vibrate is like a lot better?
Yeah. Vibrating sex toys for internal stuff is the difference between like having a car, which is cool, you get to drive around, and then realizing that your car actually had wings and you could have been flying this whole time. Like when the option for vibration is there, I always take it.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love the analogy. If your car can fly, wouldn't you want to fly in your car? Why would you want to drive?
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'd like to move forward to the last segment of this show, which is called 10 Quickies with Dr. Tara. And we haven't had one in person, but are you willing to do 10 quickies with Dr.
Come visit New York. I'm here.
And it's kind of like the 73 question on Vogue, where I give you a word and you give me a response back. It can be a word, a sentence, a couple of sentences.
So just kind of free association?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's do it. 10 quickies with Dr. Tara.
Okay.
Number 1, bisexuality.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. I think that's okay. Keep going. That's it. That's what it is. I think it's awesome.
Number two, ethical porn.
Important. Do you want me to explain it a little bit, or just are we bulldozing through? I don't know. It's in this era of porn being free access for everyone, high quality videos, just making sure the performers are safe, getting paid is monumental. Otherwise, these people could just get treated terribly. Not always. I don't want to depict the porn industry like often it's just like everything is terrible. It's like, no, but there are a lot of terrible things about it. So ethical porn is just like the best way to support sex workers.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
It's more realistic too. It looks like the sex I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3, sex advice columns.
Sexplained It. Please read my sex advice column at Men's Health. Sexplained It. How to do it, which is Rich. I always forget to pronounce his last name. Like Joviak, and then Stoya. They co-write it at Slate. Is probably my other favorite sex column.
So it's not like your sex column is not like all about. It's Men's Health magazine. So it's sex advice for men.
No, it's for, we started it with like that, but I ended up getting so many questions from women, and I'm like, it's still women. It's still men still learn from this. You know what I mean? It's still their relationships with men and what they do when talking to men, and whether it's like a woman writes in because they think my husband has a porn addiction. Okay, that still helps men who have porn addictions talking about it with their wives. So while the focus is more on men, it's not exclusively for men. It's, because men date everyone, it's about relationships.
I love it. You're like bi man Carrie Bradshaw.
Oh yeah. Bi male Carrie Bradshaw. I love it.
Yeah. Number 4, butt plugs.
Fabulous. Highly recommend. Life-changing. Much stronger orgasms, much stronger joy, all the good stuff.
Love it. Number 5, domination.
What it came up? I don't know. No, my brain turned to mush on that one. I don't know. Domination, kinky. It's something worth exploring. If it's something that interests you, just make sure you do your research on it to have your safe word. Know what aftercare is. If you're doing choking, know how to choke someone properly so they don't injure themselves. If you're doing spanking, know what parts of their body to spank. Like, be a nerd about it so you can do it safely. I think that's my only concern when a lot of people just delve in heads first without like doing their research. It can be dangerous just emotionally and physically.
I love it. Hashtag nerdy lovers.
Nerdy lovers. Oh my God. Like poly people, especially kinky people, are some of the nerdiest fucking people I know. They love exploring. Oh my God, this part of the brain does this and this cool thing. And how does it, what does it mean for my identity? And it's like, get nerdy.
And it's hot.
And it's hot.
Number 6, piss porn.
Indifferent. I think I said that beforehand. Again, not for me, but
it's crazy. I didn't know you were going to share that story. I wrote this list long time ago.
yeah. I guess I shared the story already, but like, doesn't do it for me. But if it does it for you, whatever gets your rocks off, you know?
Also, I think there's a stereotype that, or like a myth that it's like dirty. Pee is actually not dirty.
No, pee is sterile. It's clean.
Pee is sterile.
Yeah.
Next, 7, needle play.
Fascinating.
Number 8.
I've done some needle play before. I did it at a tutorial. I went to a workshop to learn. This was a needle play, bud play. So we put needles in, then we used suction, like cupping, to kind of remove the blood, and to like kind of do that. And I actually ended up with, so this is my blood and my boyfriend's blood that we put in a little vial here. So
wow,
like the needle play was very associated with blood play. And for me, there was nothing sexual about it. It wasn't like I was aroused, but you get an adrenaline rush from someone putting a needle in you. And that's just insane and incredible. Like, I don't think it would be a sexual kink for me, but it was just a fascinating one that I thought was just interesting to explore.
This is giving me Megan Fox's vibes.
I did it before she did. I just want to,
she stole the idea from you, man.
Yeah.
Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. And I don't know how truthful this is, but she did say they drink each other's blood.
Who knows? Who the fuck knows? Let them live their best life. Whatever.
Wow. I feel like this next word, I should change it, but I already wrote it. I feel like it's so vanilla now. Threesomes.
Also amazing. I love me threesomes. I love daisy chains where I'm in the middle, where a guy's fucking me while I'm fucking a woman and I'm in the middle of it. That is my self-care. That is my happy place. And I work hard to make sure, and I get this quite often. So I love it.
Hashtag daisy chain.
Hashtag daisy chain.
So a woman's receiving, you are fucking her, you're also getting fucked.
Yeah, I've also done it where like
is it hard logistically?
I mean, yes, the first couple times. I'm a pro at this point, but no, but I mean, figuring out the momentum and the actual like, you know, so they don't slip out or you don't slip out, and you have to kind of guide it a little bit. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you can. And I've also done it with like all genders, where I'm getting, you know, pegged by a woman or a trans man, and I'm fucking a dude, or I'm fucking whatever it is. It could be anyone at any side doing anything, but I just like it when it's multiple genders, when it is, you know, a man and a woman or non-binary person, as opposed to just all three men. I'm a greedy bisexual. I love it all. So I like having everyone. I like having everyone there.
Pleasure.
Absolutely.
When is your birthday?
June 18th.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah.
What sign is that?
Gemini.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I am.
Adorable,
I enjoy it.
Intellectual, chaotic.
That's it. That describes me in a nutshell.
Oh, look at that. I want to send you daisies for your birthday.
Oh, thank you.
A little inside joke. Well, now everyone knows that are listening, but for Daisy Chain.
I love it. I love it.
Next, number 9 is sexual meditation.
Oh, I'm actually not super familiar with it, if I'm being honest, in terms of like my expertise. I know a little bit about what am I thinking of? Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart.
I love sexual meditation. I do it every other day. I have
But yeah, what does it entail?
Everyone that listening, I know like if you're listening, you probably already know this, but I have YouTube videos on like they're guided sexual meditation. For those of you that are beginners and you want to be guided, you can go to YouTube. There's like a 5-minute one, a 10-minute one, and then just try. Really, it's very similar to a regular meditation practice, except for the fact that you're focusing on your sex organ and sexuality and sensations in general.
I love that. I need to familiarize myself. I'm going to try
really
that
cool.
today. That sounds awesome.
Please do try it today. And then when you're with your partner next time, carve out like a 5 or 10 minute and do it together naked while yumming.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, it's really intimate. Well, last but not least, number 10, kinky sex.
Do it. Explore it. Have fun with life's too short for vanilla sex here. If it's something that interests you, give it a shot.
Yay, loves it. Where can everyone find you?
Best website, zacharyzane.com. Twitter, Instagram is Zachary Zane, and there's an underscore at the end, so Zachary Zane _. Also, subscribe to my digital zine. If you type in Boyslut, it'll be the first thing that comes up. There's some really fun, and if you're into erotica, it is awesome. And I think just the fact that these are real stories that happened, just make it that much cooler.
Hot. I'll have all of that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Of course, thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah, and as a teaser, like preview for all my Love Bites family here, Zach and I are working on something that will be one of the most amazing things ever. And I just can't wait to share with you all my Love Bites family. So stay tuned. It will be amazing.
I cannot wait. I know. I want to spill the beans. We can't just yet, but soon we'll be able to.
I know. I'm so excited. Well, thank you again for spending time with me here and talking about all sex stuff. It has been so amazing and educational. And thank you so much, my Love Bites fam, for staying until the end of the episode. DM me if you have feedback or questions. And per usual, have an orgasmic day. Have you ever wanted an STD test but didn't have time to go to a clinic? Now there is a solution. Let's Get Checked has an at-home STD test with fast results. It's simple. You order your test, collect your sample, and receive your accurate results online. They also provide medication at no extra cost for most states. There are also other health and wellness tests for men and women as well. Check out Let's Get Checked. The link is in my episode description, and the discount code is Dr. Tara. And have a worry-free orgasmic time.
Thanks for listening. This was Love Bites. Love Bites. By Dr. Tara. Follow Dr. Tara on social media at lovebites.co. Have an orgasmic day.